Two young men were lying in the road. It was a scene of utter devastation, with serious stab wounds. The police received a call to what sounded like a hit-and-run incident in H-Ton Regis near Luton, but what they found was no hit and serious stab wounds. Run. One of the men had also been hit by a car and he tragically died at the scene, and just meters away, a third man was found in a nearby driveway, and despite medical treatment, he couldn't be saved. But just what could have happened to lead to this devastation? Well, let's just go back for a few hours. It was Saturday the 13th of November when 27-year-olds Pat Howard and Mason Jordan had begun their Saturday night at the Checkers pub in H-Ton Regis, a welcoming, family-friendly pub where they've been celebrating a friend's baby shower. Just after midnight, when the Checkers shut, the pair moved on to the Crown for some more drinks. And playing pool, there were 25-year-old Anthony Benison and 33-year-old Nicholas Papworth, who was soon joined in a game with Mason and Pat. But it was about 12:45 a.m. when there was some sort of argument, and a mini ruck broke out with Mason throwing a punch at Nicholas Papworth. Quite what it was over is uncertain. And it's been reported it was a woman, but most of us have seen a similar sort of minor altercation in a pub late at night, right? It's usually forgotten by the next morning. Mason and Pat then left the venue of a group of their friends to call it a night and head home. But Papworth was livid that he'd been hit, and he suffered a small cut to his lip and bruising around his eye. And he didn't want to let it go, and he was heard uttering threats to Mason. A few minutes later, Anthony Benison sought revenge for this incident and went looking for the group of men in his silver BMW, quickly spotting them nearby, where he drove his car directly at Mason and Pat, who tried to defend themselves using wood and other debris left behind after Benison had erratically driven into road signs and fencing. There was an alleyway nearby, and the two men managed to escape through there, where Benison couldn't follow them in his car. 39-year-old Adam Finelli, a father of 3 daughters, who they knew as he was friends with their older brothers. He'd heard all the noise outside his home nearby and just wanted to know what was going on after telling his mom he'd be back in just a minute. Meanwhile, Benison had driven back to the pub where Michael Papworth still was. And moments later, Benison was out looking for the group of men again in his BMW, now in convoy with Papworth, who was driving his Golf. An entire farm road, they found the 3 men just after 1 a.m. The 2 cars drove at the group before Benison got out of his car and attempted to attack Mason. And as Adam Finelli tried to intervene to stop any more trouble breaking out, he was stabbed twice in the chest by Benison. Injured, Adam ran away from the scene, but he collapsed in a nearby driveway where he was later tragically found dead. He'd only been trying to keep the peace. And back at the scene, Benison now attacked Mason, stabbing him quickly, 8 times in the back and the neck, which Mason was very fortunate to survive due to outstanding work from paramedics and hospital staff. He then turned to Pat Howard, running up to him from behind and stabbed him in the neck. It was a devastating blow, causing instant paralysis, and Pat collapsed on the road. Benison then kicked him in the head as he walked away back to his car, but the violence still wasn't complete. Papworth then accelerated in his Golf and drove straight over Pat Howard, who was unable to move, and the car dragged his body along the road for many meters before it fell free of the wheels. The witnesses who were there couldn't believe what they'd seen. And before the police and paramedics had arrived, Benison and Papworth had driven away. And within an hour of the attack, Benison had abandoned his BMW in North London. And Papworth's car was found just outside Luton, where it had been set alight in an attempt to destroy evidence. With 2 men dead and another seriously injured, the case was taken on by Bedford's Major Crimes Unit, and it was the next morning when the scenes of crimes officers had finished their work and the 2 dead bodies were able to be taken away from the scene. Meanwhile, the murder investigation moved into full swing with house-to-house inquiries in the local area during that critical first 48 hours. And they were also looking for any houses which may have had CCTV, doorbell cams, or any other way of recording the events that had taken place leading to the attacks. And very soon, information was coming into the control room from witnesses in the local area who had seen the silver BMW and a black Golf driving erratically in the area just before the incident took place. So the hunt was on to find the drivers. Soon the calls were coming in giving names, and the same name kept on coming through: Nicholas Papworth. Detectives had the CCTV from the Crown Pub, and they quickly saw Mason Jordan and Pat Howard walk in, and as they did so, the CCTV, which incidentally, for once on this occasion was of very good quality, showed Nick Papworth racking up the balls on the pool table. They could see Pat and Michael Papworth messing about together near the pool table, getting on well. It seemed they knew each other. And it was evidently only when Mason and Papworth argued over a woman that the evening went so badly wrong. The investigation team established that Nick Papworth was the owner of a black Golf, and this was enough for the murder team to track him down to his home address and make an arrest. He's in there. He's in there. Go. We are now on the floor. What's your name, fella? Nick. Nick. What? Backward. Nick at the moment. The major is going to be placed under arrest of murder. Okay. At the police station, Papworth told the custody sergeant that he was an alcoholic who drank 5 to 10 brandies a day and was also a regular user of cocaine and cannabis. When interviewed, Papworth only answered no comment. No comment. During one interview, a police officer told Papworth that after he was punched in the pub, he was heard threatening, "I'm going to get you and you're going to get it. No problem." But although Papworth was in custody, detectives were yet to identify Benison. They thought that he was the man on CCTV playing Paul with Papworth at the Crown. And they saw him get into a silver BMW outside the pub, and then minutes later stab all 3 men again on CCTV. But eventually it was dash cam footage from one of the police cars responding to the incident which picked up his BMW and, crucially, the registration number. But Benison was of no fixed address. He'd been living in and out of local B&Bs. So, it took longer to arrest him, which finally happened when detectives monitoring his phone picked up that he was ordering a takeaway to an address on the other side of Luton, and armed officers were soon at the location of an upstairs flat. "Anthony, anyone else inside flat 3? It's the armed police. Come and open the door slowly with nothing in your hands. Just do exactly as I say. Save your hands, both hands. Slowly walk towards me. Stop. Turn to your right. You face that wall off your boat. Just get the name confirmed. What's your name? Say again. Anthony Bennell. Anthony Benesil. Well, Anthony, at this moment in time, mate, you're under arrest suspicion of murder ×2, which occurred on the 5th on the 13th of November, 2022 in Ty Farm, Hatton Regis. In interviews, Benison too adopted a no-comment approach. But whereas Paper sat still and maintained eye contact and appeared composed, Benison wasn't like this at all. He was much more animated with his legs shaking, stroking his face and beard. He looked nervous, and even occasionally on the point of tears. The search where Benson was arrested showed a handwritten note that he began writing to his grandparents, and it read pretty much like a confession. In the police interview, this note was read to him. It began, "I don't even know how to start this. I wish I could come give you a hug right now. I never thought my life would turn into this. And I don't know how you'll feel towards me when you hear what I've done. It ended. I'm probably never going to see you guys again. And I don't know what I'm going to put into this, but I just wanted you to know I'm sorry and I'm grateful for everything that you guys have done for me." This note being read to him reduced Benison to tears, although he covered his eyes with his hands. After composing himself, Benison and his solicitor returned. Well, the solicitor read a prepared statement which said that Benson had been out having a cigarette when Mason punched Papworth. And when he came back and there was an altercation, he said this upset him and he just went for a drive. When doing this, he just randomly came across a group of men from the pub. He said he hadn't been looking for them. They surrounded him. He was frightened. So he drove back to the pub. But on seeing the damage, he decided to go and find the men to ask why they had done this. And when he did, he had a scuffle with one of them who dropped a knife, which he then used, he said, in self-defense. But of course, this account was totally contradicted by the CCTV, which showed that Benison had the knife from the beginning and he wasn't surrounded at all, and he was the one pursuing the other men in an aggressive manner. As for Paper, who was the sole guardian of a teenage daughter whose mom had died, I understand that she was murdered when the girl was young, so as Pat was now in custody, he had to give his permission for his daughter to go into foster care due to his actions. He openly wept, calling her, as he said, "I don't know when I'll see you again. I love you." I certainly felt sorry for his daughter whose life was about to change forever. But some people may well feel so for Paper seeing him cry as he spoke to his daughter about her moving into foster care. But not me, not at all. This man showed no emotions for the people's lives that he destroyed, but he was able to freely shed tears of self-pity for himself and his life that he had ruined. I suggest he was selfish to the very core. At the trial at Luton Crown Court, 25-year-old Anthony Benison and 33-year-old Nicholas Papworth both denied murder, attempted murder, and grievous bodily harm of intent. During the trial, Benson and Papworth both elected not to give evidence, although their barristers indicated that their actions were self-defense. They were joined in the dock by a third man, Mark Griffith, who had also pleaded not guilty to the charges. He'd been a passenger in the BMW, and it was the prosecution's case that he'd encouraged Benison and Papworth to inflict the violence that night. That he was cleared midway through the trial under the direction of the judge who ruled that he had no case to answer. After 9 weeks of harrowing evidence at Lucerne Crown Court, the jury was sent out to consider the evidence, returning with their verdicts that Benison was guilty of the murder of both men. His co-defendant Papworth was found guilty of murdering Pat Howard, but he was cleared of the murder of Adam Finelli. For their crimes, Anthony Benison received life imprisonment with a minimum term of 38 years, with Nicholas Papworth receiving life imprisonment with a minimum term of 34 years. What do you make of those sentences? They seem about right to me. The judge said nothing. This court can do will fill the cavernous void in the hearts of the victims' loved ones. The events between 1 a.m. and 1:10 a.m. can only be described in one word: carnage. The evening started by celebrating new life and ended in mourning and disbelief at the unspeakable and shocking violence. The families of the two men killed paid tribute with Adam's family, saying, Adam was undoubtedly a loving and devoted dad to his 3 wonderful children. For someone small in stature, he had an extremely larger-than-a-life character and a heart bigger than a house. He was a person who emulated, once met, never forgotten in every way possible. He's going to be missed eternally, leaving a void that could never be filled. The family would like to thank everyone for their messages of support and beautiful tributes to both Adam and Pat. Also paying tribute was Pat's family. They said that Patrick was the most lovable, cheeky chap you could meet. He'd have done anything for anybody and had the biggest heart of gold. He was the heart and soul of the community with not a person who didn't love him. Patrick will be missed immensely and has left such a hole in too many hearts. If love could have saved Patrick, he would have lived forever.